Welcome to our interview corner here at the Meta Economist TV. Today we have a special guest that is in tune with the most important news in the last week, which is the AI Act by the European Parliament. This is a law that will change all the dynamics in the technologies and AI sector. Without any doubt, we are very, very happy to have one of the Italian researchers that is most important about this sector. We are very welcome to have with us Professor Andrea Bertolini.
Thank you, Daria.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me with you.
Thanks to you, and we know that you are from this beautiful city in Belgium, which is Ghent, because for your work you're here to follow some conferences. Is that true?
Yes, actually, I'm here to discuss the final results of a European project that is in the field of artificial intelligence. And for the better part, I would say, the kind of technology that we were trying to develop is a technology that has to do with teaching children how to play the violin or how to write through the use of exoskeletons. So it's a very novel application, and that makes use of robotics and artificial intelligence in the field of education in a very original way. And we just concluded this 4-year project, and we had the assessment by the European Commission with some experts, and they were quite impressed, I can say, by the work the entire consortium produced. So these days we're having demos, we're presenting the results of this project and its applications.
So thanks for this introduction, but let me introduce you with your professional titles, because you are actually the director of the European Center of Excellence on Robotics and AI, and also professor of private law at Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna in Pisa. Your researchers started from private law and come across the technological regulation, robotics and AI, with an economic approach. And that's exactly our philosophy here at the Meta Economist, just to analyze the new technologies linked to a new economy that will rise, but we have to say it's already rising. The Italian newspaper La Repubblica just inserted you among the 500 Italian researchers and important people in art, culture, and companies that counts on AI. Just let me share with you this article by the Italian newspaper La Repubblica. Here we are with your name here among some other important universities in Italia, in Italy, but also with the companies and startups. So congratulations on that. And did you expect this important mentioning in this newspaper?
No, actually, this came to me as a total surprise, but I have to say, of course, I'm happy and I'm humbled, and especially being acknowledged among so many relevant colleagues and also people that do innovation for real. So it's an honor and it's a pleasure, and I'm happy that the work that I have been doing over the years myself and with the team I work with, that is a very multidisciplinary team in Pisa, is being acknowledged this way. So I'm very thankful.
So, Professor Bertolini, just an informal question before we start with the strong questions about AI and the AI European law. Your academic background is the private law, but when did you fall in love? When did you fall in love with artificial intelligence, and why?
So life is always made with unexpected events. So back when I was finishing my PhD in private law, back then I was working primarily in capital markets regulation next to the typical topics of private law, so law of obligation, contracts, stores, these kind of things. I was just back from the United States where I did my master's at Yale, and I was looking for funding to pursue my studies forward and to do research because I was interested in academic life. And then at Sant'Anna had just won the first European funded project in the field of robotics. Back then, the buzzword was robotics, to discuss what they call the non-technical implications of advanced technologies. So the legal, ethical, and economic implications of advanced technologies. So I had an opportunity to win a postdoc position in that project. And back then I started working on civil liability and artificial intelligence, which was the first, and it's one of the fields that I still pursue as of today the most. So basically asking myself the question, who pays for damages when something goes wrong in the use of advanced technologies? Which then led me to a set of different topics that are connected or sub-questions or related aspects that are, for instance, how are products certified, and so the entire body of product safety legislation, as well as human-machine interaction. I don't think that it does make so much of a difference to discuss the regulation of robotics platforms, artificial intelligence, blockchain, or other advanced technologies, because the kind of reasoning, the methodology that you have to employ is somewhat similar. So I evolved, and I basically over the years I have broadened the scope of my interests to include artificial intelligence, platforms, blockchain, and anything technologically advanced, I would say.
Perfect. So sometimes we used to say Italians do it better, and that's the case because just the day after the AI Act was approved by the Parliament of the European Union, Professor Bertolini organized the first technical presentation of the AI Act. So your staff and your colleagues were ready to explore this new law, and all this happens at the European Robotics Forum 2024, which took place in Rimini. And it's the most important annual event for research in robotics, with an important guest too, which was Tatiana Evans, a European Commission collaborator officer, exactly. So how did it go?
Well, it was a fantastic experience. I have to say, as the saying does, that luck helps those that are prepared. So I cannot say that we had planned the event in light of the approval of the AI Act, because we weren't aware about the exact date when the final vote would take place. So that was the part of the luck. But we had been preparing that event for a few months, because as it typically is, we always organize with my team an event within the European Robotics Forum, because it's a very, very, very important event that brings together academics, but also the people working in the industry and startups that develop advanced robotic technologies and applications at the European level. There is always also a broad presence also of the European Commission and other European policymakers within that event, and so it is really, I would say, everybody interested in robotics has to participate and join the debates and join the discussions that take place there. And every year we organize an event. And this year we have thought to deal with the Artificial Intelligence Act, firstly, to make it evident for roboticists that they are indeed doing artificial intelligence, and that is going to affect the way they do their business, they do their research, the kind of products they can bring to the market, the conditions they have to meet, the requirements they will have to satisfy. At the same time, we were also presenting the results of a project that I had the chance to coordinate that brought us together also with Chilometro Rosso, a fantastic Italian reality from Bergamo, as well as Fraunhofer, that is from Germany, one of the most likely the most important reality in Europe for technological transfer from research to the industry, with over 5,000 engineers within Germany working within it. And basically within this project, it's called Regulate. We have developed a series of videos, video lectures that will be made available for free on a platform. And this is a chance for anyone interested in the regulation of advanced technologies to get a bird's eye view through this video series on how emerging European regulation will affect the way they do their business. So we were also within this event, we were also presenting the results of this project and the video courses that will soon be deployed.
Yeah, so this is very interesting, this project about video classes on the applications of AI Act, which will be a long path, as we already explained in one of our articles last week. But here, the Meta Economists were interested in the consequences of this act for blockchain, crypto economy, and metaverse technologies. So in those fields, what do you think, you and your team, what do you think about the applications and the consequences of the applications of this law in the new economic dynamic?
So the AI Act is a horizontal piece of legislation. With that, I mean that it tries to regulate all sorts of AI-based applications. And this notion is super broad. This is one aspect that I'm quite critical about because I think that when it comes to advanced technologies, considering the immense difference that we may appreciate between different kinds of advanced technologies, approaching it in a horizontal fashion, trying to regulate everything at once, isn't the preferable move. However, that was the political decision that the European Commission took already some years ago. I would say around 2020, 2021. Before that moment, there was a discussion whether a horizontal or a vertical approach would be preferable. I didn't change my mind, but the European Commission went the other way. So the notion of artificial intelligence is very broad and it encompasses most advanced technologies. Um, Now, the fact that everything or most advanced technologies fall under the notion of artificial intelligence does not mean much per se, because then there is a categorization according to levels of risk. And the most stringent requirements only relate to so-called high-risk applications. Other applications only pose some transparency requirements, informational requirements. And many applications will not be regulated at all because they will be deemed low-risk applications. So the fact that the AI Act could stretch out to include many software-based applications as well as some uses of AI in the field of virtual reality does not necessarily entail that those domains will be heavily regulated, because the AI Act is so conceived to be made in layers, and only high-risk applications are indeed subject to greater requirements. And the notion of high-risk application is subject to evolution in the sense that the European Commission may update the list of high-risk applications over time. But I don't see as of today, applications in the field of virtual reality to be falling squarely between those. To some extent, it's more related still to things that have a physical body and dimension. There are some, for instance, there is some space for considering the possibility of prohibited AI-based applications to encompass also some forms of uses of artificial intelligence in the virtual world. Because if you look into Article 5, for first paragraph, letters A and B, they refer to prohibited AI-based practices that have to do with user manipulation. And we could make an argument that some forms of virtual reality could have a manipulative impact on the user. So I don't know, and I don't think that that will be the case for the kind of technologies that you're interested in. But should we consider some forms of metaverse where people are mentally manipulated or heavily influenced by the system itself? We could then debate whether, under certain conditions, those applications could even fall under the so-called prohibited AI-based practices, because they are indeed manipulative of an user who could be deemed a frail individual, typically elderly, people affected with dementia, children would be the very clear examples that one could take into account. We will definitely need to do a great work in trying to fine-tune and make those definitions much more precise and concrete than they currently are in the wording of the European Parliament and of the European Commission themselves.
What the application of AI will, in some cases, ban. We list some of them in our article, but there were many articles that underline that maybe the focus about these actions that will be banned, such as biometric categorization systems that refer to sensitive personal data, the extrapolation of facial images, or emotion recognition systems, are all about privacy. Is that the most important thing? It's the heart of this law, to protect our privacy from some difficult consequences or not. What do you think about that?
So, yes, I agree with you in your reading of the AI Act. I would say that there is for sure a focus on privacy and data protection. Do I agree with such an approach? I am not so certain about that, in the sense that Europe is quite obsessed with privacy and data protection, which is a positive. The GDPR is a piece of legislation that, despite all its shortcomings, became a global benchmark and designed the so-called Brussels effect, namely the possibility for the European Union to influence beyond its own borders other states, other legal systems. So this is a very important element and a very successful story, that of privacy and data protection, how it has been regulated at European level. Nonetheless, I do think that the greatest threats that AI brings about, those that need to be regulated, are not so much related to privacy and data protection. There are other aspects that are very relevant and pose threats, and would suggest the need for some consideration in a regulatory perspective. One aspect, for instance, that I'm personally quite concerned with, despite like next to that of user manipulation, is the so-called attention extraction capacity that certain applications, certain algorithms possess, namely the capacity of inducing users to spend much time of their life using and interacting with the system, with the platform very often, which is then ultimately an algorithm. So the capacity of the algorithm of making you stick to the web page, or making you stick to the platform and spend immense amount of time scrolling and watching content. So this is an aspect that can give rise to some concerns. And again, we are not China. We cannot impose a maximum number of hours when social media are to be used through the law, just as China has instead imposed a limit to the number of hours the kids can play video games, because that would be perceived as a violation of individual freedom and self-determination. But yes, there are indeed such concerns that need to be tackled, and regulation is to some extent necessary, because the self-regulation, so the principles system imposed to themselves, platforms, businesses, are definitely not sufficient in this perspective.
Of course. Very last question, because as you talked about this worldwide situation, social situation, I was thinking about, we don't have to forget that the European Union has been the first to make a law about artificial intelligence. In your experience and in your opinion, what does it mean? Because we have Asia, we have the United States, and the European Union decided to be the first to have this law. It's an historical moment, and maybe this can put the ancient countries of Europe a step
Ahead.
forward, for a step ahead, exactly. Thanks, for the future system and the future economy.
Okay, so yes, this is actually the idea that the European Commission had. And this is exactly what I was referring to when I mentioned the so-called Brussels effect. So namely, the idea is that the European market is so relevant, and European citizens are so much of interest for even non-European companies, that anyone who will want to do business in Europe or with European citizens will have to abide by and comply with the AI Act and all European legislation. So this should provide Europe the possibility of influencing the global development and production of AI systems. Because if an American company wants to bring their AI-based product to the European market and have European users use that product, then they will have to comply with the AI Act. And this is precisely the idea of pursuing the Brussels effect, and trying to achieve that first mover advantage that the European Union was after by speeding up and adopting the AI Act. Europe inevitably lags behind. Because we don't have the same computing power, we don't have the same capacity of elaborating data that the Chinese or the Americans have. So the less positive, the less triumphant way of putting it is that Europe is regulating what they cannot really produce. And even if that is true, and to some extent I do believe that this is true, because it's just a matter of fact that European technical research in the field of artificial intelligence is not as advanced as that occurring in the US and maybe China, especially when it comes to the amount of private investment that you can find in those places in the world. The idea of making a move in order to ensure a human-centric approach to the regulation of advanced technologies is indeed a good move. Whether that will be to the advantage of European companies or not, it's an entirely different question. I don't think it will be to the disadvantage of European companies, in the sense that all companies that want to do business in Europe will have to comply with those principles. So an American company will have to comply the same way as a European one if they want to do business with European citizens. Whether that will become the new global standard, as it was the case with the GDPR, that it's entirely a different question, and it's very hard to guess. So we'll just have to wait and see how things will play out. It's sure that as of today, the European market is too relevant a market for global companies to ignore it or to forgo it and to decide not to do business here, not to invest here because of the AI Act. So there is a chance that the AI Act will play out as the GDPR, as the new global standard in artificial intelligence regulation. But I don't think that this will be necessarily neither to the advantage nor to the detriment of European companies.
Perfect. So thanks to Professor Andrea Bertolini for this very wide panorama of AI Act, and thanks to you and your staff for keep on researching about these themes, about this new extensions of our reality, let's say that. And I really wish you a good work, and I hope to have you back here at the Meta Economist TV. Thanks again for being with us, and see you soon.
Thank you, Rada. It was a pleasure. Have a good day.